Good morning and Erev Shabbat Shalom. I wanted to share with you a brief idea from this week's Parsha, Shabbat HaGadol, the Shabbos before Pesach, but also Parshat Tzav. Parshat Tzav, we continue as were introduced in last week's Parsha. The book of Vayikra is primarily about ritual, the ritual of Karbanot, the ritual of purity and impurity later on in the book. This week's Parsha is a review of a number of Karbanot, one of which is the Karban Toda, the Thanksgiving offering. And I wanted to spend a few moments discussing and focusing on the Thanksgiving offering because gratitude and thanksgiving is a critical element in getting through all of life's challenges, including today's. Even though there's lots of things to be concerned about and worried about, each of us in our lives have reason to feel gratitude. And gratitude is an attitude that shapes and influences the rest of our lives and can mitigate a lot of the negative feelings that we might have during challenging situations. Hakarat HaTov, recognizing the good, finding the good, seeing that there is good. So the Karban Toda that was offered in the Beit HaMikdash when somebody experienced a life-saving situation consisted of some of the loaves of chametz. That's why we don't say Mizmor LaToda on Pesach. And some of the loaves were matzah. And Rav Hirsch explains that the combination of chametz and matzah is the microcosm of the human experience. Chametz represents freedom. We just let the dough do whatever it wants, rise and express itself without limitation. And matzah represents limitations and constraints. And life is a combination of both. And what I think is so important about this idea of Rav Hirsch and the Karban Toda, not only because it represents the importance of gratitude and Hakarat HaTov in whatever situation we find ourselves, is that in life, especially now, there's a combination of both constraints and freedoms. We may be more constrained in terms of our employment, in terms of what we can do, where we can be, but there's always an element of freedom. And I would encourage you over Shabbat to find those ways that we can express ourselves that we still have freedom, whether it's in our attitude, whether it's in our perspective, whether it's in other ways to interact with our nuclear families over Shabbat. Find the ways that even if we are constrained in some ways, there are still ways that we can express our freedom. And when we do that, there will be one other thing for us to be appreciative for, thereby increasing our attitude of gratitude, of Hakarat HaTov. Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned right after Shabbat for an email that will have a link to my Shabbat Hagadol drasha delivered via video on Yosef HaTzadik at our Seder. Shabbat Shalom.